AI 如何破解民主。
January 6th, 2021, my nation suffered a little bit of a democracy heart attack. Thousands of Americans had been told that the election had been stolen, and tens of thousands of them showed up because they believed the election had been stolen. And indeed, in polling immediately after January 6th, the Washington Post found 70% of Republicans believed the election had been stolen, and a majority of college-educated Republicans believed the election had been stolen. That was their perception. And I don't know what the right way to act on that perception is. They thought the right way was to defend what they thought was a democracy stolen.
Stolen democracy.
这个知识点的含义是指民主制度被篡夺或侵犯。惯用法是在讨论政治或社会问题时使用此词组。
Now, these numbers were astonishing. 30% or 2/3 of Republicans believing the election was stolen. But even more extraordinary are these numbers. The fact that in the 3 years since that astonishing event, the numbers have not changed. The same number believed today that the election was stolen as believed it was stolen 3 years ago, despite the fact that we've had investigations and overwhelming evidence that there was no fraud sufficient to ever change even a single state. This is something new. When Richard Nixon went through the Watergate scandal, as the news was being reported, Nixon's popularity collapsed, not just among Democrats, but among independents and Republicans. But we're at a stage where it doesn't matter what happens. This is Donald Trump's popularity. Over the course of his administration, nothing changes. The facts don't matter. Now, I think this truth should bother us a lot. I think we need to develop a kind of paranoia about what produces this reality. A particular paranoia, the paranoia of the hunted. Think of the kids in The Birds first realizing that those crows were attacking them, or Black Mirror's metalheads when you see these creatures chasing and surrounding you. The point is, we need to recognize that there is an intelligence out there to get us, because our perceptions, our collective perceptions, our collective misimpressions are not accidental. They are expected. They are intended. They are the product of the thing. Okay, I want to be careful introducing the thing. I'm going to talk a little bit about AI, but I'm not going to slag on AI. I think AI...
Slag on.
这个词组的含义是批评或贬损某人或某事物。例如 I'm not going to slag on AI. 这句话中的 slag on 表示不想批评或贬损 AI.
AI is the most extraordinary technology humanity has ever even conceived of, but I also think it has the potential to end humanity. But I'm not going to slag on AI because I'm pretty sure that our robot overlord is going to be
Overlord.
这个词的含义是统治者或权威的人。例如 because I'm pretty sure that our robot overlord. 这句话中的 overlord 表示机器人统治者。
listening to these TED Talks someday, and I don't want to be on the wrong side of the overlord. So AI is...
Be on the wrong side of.
这个短语的含义是做出错误或不合适的决定，或者站在错误的一边。例如 And I don't want to be on the wrong side of the overlord. 这句话中的 be on the wrong side of 表示不想做出错误的决定。
It's just fine. I'm not going to talk about this AI first. I want to instead put AI in a little bit of a perspective. Because I think...
Put AI in a little bit of a perspective.
这个短语的意思是给某个事物提供一个新的视角或理解方式。它通常用于描述对某个问题或现象的重新思考或重新评估。
think that we're too obsessed with the new, and we fail to recognize the significance of AI in the old. We think about intelligence, and we're distinguishing between artificial and natural intelligence, and we, of course, as humans, claim pride of kingdom in the world of natural intelligence. And then we build artificial intelligence. It's intelligence that we make. But here's the critical point. We have already, for a long time, lived
with systems of artificial intelligence.
这个知识点的含义是指人类已经长期与人工智能系统共存。这种表达方式使用了
with systems of artificial intelligence. I don't mean digital AI. I mean analog AI. Any entity or institution that we build with a purpose that acts instrumentally in the world is, in this sense, an AI. It is an instrumentally rational entity that's mapping how it should behave given the way the world evolves and responds to it. So think about democracy as an AI. It has institutions, elections, parliaments, constitutions, for the purpose of some collective ends. Our Constitution says it's for the common good. So the democracy in our Constitution is an analog artificial intelligence devoted
Common good.
这个词组的含义是指一种公平、公正的社会状态，所有人都能共享资源和机会。它与美国人的价值观有关，强调个人自由和责任。
to the common good. Or think about corporations as an AI. They have institutions, boards, management, finance, for the purpose of making money, or at least conceived of narrowly. Today, that's the way it is. Their corporation is an analog intelligence devoted to maximizing shareholder value. These are AIs. They have purposes and objectives, sometimes complementing each other.
They have purposes and objectives, sometimes complementing each other.
这个句子使用了复杂的句型，表达了对人工智能和其目的的理解。注意到这里使用了
So the purpose of a school bus company
complements the purpose of a school board.
这个句子使用了复杂的句型，表达了对学校和其目的的理解。注意到这里使用了
the purpose of a school board to produce school bus transportation in a district. That's just
To produce school bus transportation in a district.
这个句子使用了复杂的句型，表达了对学校和其目的的理解。注意到这里使用了
beautiful. But sometimes they're competing. The purpose of a government in having a clean environment conflicts.
The purpose of a government and having a clean environment conflicts with the purpose of a coal company.
这个句子使用了复杂的句型，表达了对政府和其目的的理解。注意到这里使用了
With the purpose of a coal company designing to produce electricity by spewing carbon and soot into the environment. And when they conflict, we tell ourselves this happy story. We tell ourselves the story that democracy is going to stand up and discipline that evil corporation, to get the corporation to do the right thing, to do the thing that's in the interest of all of us. That's our happy story. It's also a fantasy. Because at least in my country, corporations are more effective AIs than democracy. Think about it a little bit like this. If we think about instrumental rationality along one axis of this graph and time,
Instrumental rationality.
这个知识点的含义是指一种理性思维方式，注重实现目标和达成目的。它与其他类型的理性思维方式相比，更关注实际结果和效果。
across the other, humans, of course, are the first instrumentally rational entity we care about. We're better than cows, maybe not as good as ants, but the point is, we're pretty good as individuals figuring out how to do things strategically. And then we build democracy to do that a little bit better, to act collectively for all of us. And that's a more instrumentally rational entity than we individual humans can be. Then we created corporations. And it turns out they have become, at least in corrupted political regimes, which I'll just submit my political regime is, better than democracy in bringing about their objective ends. Now, of course, in this system, each of these layers has an aspiration to control the higher layer. So humans try to control democracy through elections. Democracy tries to control corporations through regulation. But the reality of control is, of course, a little bit different. In the United States, corporations control democracy through the extraordinary amount of money they pour into elections, making our representatives dependent not on us, but on them. And in democracy, then controls the humans by making representation, not actually representation, corrupting representation. Now, this structure, this layer of higher order intelligence or instrumental rationality might evoke, for those of
Instrumental rationality.
这个知识点的含义是指一种理性或智力水平较高的东西被控制或影响着另一个理性或智力水平较低的东西。这是一个重要的概念，特别是在讨论人工智能 AI 和认知能力时。
you who think about AI, a statement by the godfather of AI, Geoffrey Hinton. Hinton warns us there are few examples of a more intelligent thing being controlled by a less intelligent thing. Or we could say a more instrumentally rational thing being controlled by a less instrumentally rational thing. And that is consistent with this picture of AIs. And then we add digital AI into this mix. And here too, once again, we have corporations attempting to control their digital AI. But the reality of that control is not quite perfect. Facebook in September of 2017 was revealed to have a term in their ad system called Jew haters. You could buy ads targeting Jew haters. Now, nobody in Facebook created that category. There was not a human in Facebook who decided, we're going to start targeting Jew haters. Its AI created that category. Because its AI figured Jew haters would be a profitable category for them to begin to sell ads to. And the company was, of course, embarrassed that it turned out they didn't actually have control over the machine that ran their machines that run our lives. The real difference in this story, though, is the extraordinary potential of this instrumentally rational entity versus us. This massively better instrumentally rational entity versus even corporations and certainly democracies, because it's going to be more efficient at achieving its objective than we are. And here's where we cue the paranoia I began to seed, because our collective perceptions, our collective perceptions are not accidental. They are expected, intended, the product of this AI. We could think of it as the AI perception machine. We are its targets. Now, the first contact we had with this AI, as Tristan Harris described it, came from social media. Tristan Harris, who started the Center for Humane Technology, co-founded it, famous in this extraordinary documentary, The Social Dilemma. Before he was famous, he was just an engineer at Google. And at Google, he was focused on the science of attention, using AI to engineer attention to overcome resistance, to increase human engagement with the platform, because engagement is the business model. Compare this to, think of it as brain hacking. We could compare
Brain hacking.
这个知识点的含义是指利用科学技术来操纵人类的大脑，达到某种目的。比如，在这段字幕中提到 compare this to, think of it as brain hacking， 意思是说，这个平台的设计是为了让用户无法停止使用。
Compared to what we could call body hacking. This is the exploiting of food science. Scientists engineer food to exploit our evolution, our mix of salt, fat, and sugar, to overcome the natural resistance so you can't stop eating food, so that they can sell food or sell, quote, food more profitably. Brain hacking is the same, but focused on attention.
Brain hacking.
脑控是一种利用心理学原理来影响人们行为的技术，它可以通过各种方式实现，例如使用奖励机制、情绪操纵等。
It's exploiting evolution.
Exploiting evolution.
这句话的意思是利用人类进化的弱点，例如人们对奖励的反应是通过进化过程中发展出来的，这可以被利用来影响行为。
The fact that we have an irrational response to random rewards or can't stop consuming bottomless pits of content with
The fact that we have an irrational response to random rewards or can't stop consuming bottomless pits of content with the aim to increase engagement, to sell more ads.
这句话描述了人们对奖励的反应是有理性的，并且无法停止消耗无尽的内容，以增加参与度和卖更多广告。
Bottomless pits of content.
无尽的内容是指人们无法停止消耗的内容，例如社交媒体、视频游戏等。
aim to increase engagement to sell.
To increase engagement, to sell more ads.
这句话的意思是为了增加参与度和卖更多广告。
Sell more ads. And it just so happens, too bad for us, that we engage more the more.
And it just so happens, too bad for us, that we engage more the more extreme, the more polarizing, the more hate-filled this content is.
这句话描述了人们对极端、极化和仇恨的内容越来越感兴趣的事实。
Extreme, the more polarizing, the more hate-filled this content is. So that is what we're fed by these AIs. With the consequence that we produce a people more polarized and ignorant and angry than at any time in democracy's history in America since the Civil War, and democracy is thereby weakened. They give us what we want. What we want makes us into this. Okay, but recognize something really critically important. This is not because AI is so strong. It's because we are so weak. Here's Tristan Harris describing this.
We're all looking out for the moment when technology would overwhelm human strengths and intelligence. When is it going to cross the singularity, replace our job?
Cross the singularity.
这个知识点的含义是指技术达到一个临界点，超过人类的能力和智慧。惯用法，当技术发展到可以取代人类工作，超越人类智能时。
Not to be smarter than humans. But there's this much earlier moment when technology exceeds and overwhelms human weaknesses. This point being crossed is at the root of addiction, polarization, radicalization, outrageification, vanityification, the entire thing.
Radicalization, outrageification, vanityification.
这个词组是指一种极端化、激愤化和自我膨胀的过程。它表明了对某些事物或观点的过度关注和反应。
This is overpowering human nature, and this is checkmate on humanity.
So Tristan's point is we're always focused on this corner. When AGI comes, when it's super intelligent, when it's more intelligent than any of us. And that's what we now fear. Whether we will get there in 3 years or 20 years, what will happen then. But his point is it's actually this place that we must begin to worry. Because at this place, it can overcome our weaknesses. The social dilemma was about the individual weaknesses we have, not to be able to turn away from our phones or to convince our children to turn away from their phones. But I want you to see that there's also a collective human weakness. That this technology drives us to disable our capacity to act collectively in ways that
Disable.
这个知识点的含义是使某人或某物无法正常工作或功能。惯用法是使用动词 disable 加名词或代词。
any of us would want. So we are surrounded individually by these metalheads, and we are
Surrounded individually by these metalheads.
这个句子使用了一个常见的口语俚语 surrounded individually， 意思是被多个东西包围。Metalheads 可能指的是机器人或 AI 系统。
Also surrounded as a people by these metalheads long before AGI is anywhere on the horizon. It overwhelms us. AI gets us to do what it seeks, which is
AI gets us to do what it seeks, which is engagement, and we get democracy hacked in return.
这个句子使用了一个复杂的句式，描述了人工智能如何利用人类的行为来实现自己的目标。
engagement, and we get democracy hacked in return. Now, if the first contact that we had gave us that, if social media circa 2020 gave us that, what's the second contact with AI going to produce? When AI is capable not just in figuring out how to target you with the content it knows will elicit the most reaction and engagement from you, but can create content that it knows will react or get you to engage more directly, whether true or false, whether slanderous or not, what does that contact do? I so hate the writers of Game of Thrones because the last season, they so completely ruined the whole series.
Ruined the whole series.
这个句子使用了一个常见的口语俚语 ruined the whole series， 意思是完全毁灭了一整个系列。这种表达方式通常用于描述某件事情或事件被彻底破坏或糟蹋。
That we can't use memes from Game of Thrones anymore. But if we could, I would say, winter is coming, friends. Well, I'm just going to
Winter is coming.
这个句子使用了一个非常著名的口语俚语 Winter is coming， 来源于《权力的游戏》。这种表达方式通常用于表示某件事情或事件即将到来。
say it anyway. Winter is coming, friends. And these AIs are the source that we have to worry about. So then, what is to be done?
What is to be done?
这个句子使用了一个常见的口语俚语 What is to be done？ 意思是要怎么办？这种表达方式通常用于表示面临某种困难或问题时不知道如何解决。
Well, if there's a flood, what you do is you turn around and run. You move. You move to higher ground or protected ground. You find a way to insulate democracy or to shelter democracy from AI's force or from AI's harmful force. And, the law does this in America with juries. We have juries. They deliberate, but they are protected in the types of information that they're allowed to hear or talk about or deliberate upon. Because we know we need to protect them if they're to reach a judgment that is just. And democracy reformers, especially across Europe, are trying to do this right now. Reformers building citizen assemblies across Europe, mainly in Japan as well. And citizen assemblies are these random, representative, informed, and deliberated bodies that take on particular democratic questions and address them in a way that could be protected from this corruption of the AI. So Iceland was able to craft a constitution out of a process like this.
Craft a constitution out of a process like this.
这个句子使用了一个常见的英语短语 craft a constitution， 意思是制定宪法。这个短语通常用于描述一种创造性的过程，例如制定法律或政策。
Ireland was able to approve gay marriage and deregulation of abortion through a process like this. France has addressed climate change and also end-of-life decisions. And across Germany, there are many of these entities that are boiling up to find ways for a different democratic voice to find voice. But here's the point. These are extraordinarily hopeful and exciting, no doubt. But
these are extraordinarily hopeful and exciting, no doubt.
这个句子使用了一个典型的美国英语口语表达式 no doubt， 表示毫无疑问或完全同意。这种表达式在英国英语中较少使用。
They are not just a good idea. They are existential for democracy. They are security for democracy. They are a way to protect us from this AI hacking that steers against a public will. This is change not just to make democracy better, a tweak, to just make it a little bit more democratic. It's a change to let democracy survive, given what we know technology will become. This is a terrifying moment.
Terrifying moment.
这个知识点的含义是指一种非常令人害怕或惊恐的时刻。惯用法，这个短语通常用于描述一个突然发生的事情，或者是一种强烈的情绪反应。
It's an exhilarating moment. Long before superintelligence, long before AGI threatens us, a different AI threatens us. But there's something to do while we still can do something. We should know enough now to know we can't trust democracy just now. We should see that we still have time to build something different. We should act with the love that makes anything possible, not because we know we will succeed. I'm pretty sure we won't. But because this is what love means. You do whatever you can, whatever the odds, for your children, for your family, for your country, for humanity, while there is still time, while our robot overlord is still just a sci-fi fantasy. Thank you very much.
恳请点赞，订阅我们的频道，一起学习演讲中的实用英语。